I want to clarify something that we said yesterday. Somebody sent me an email and he wasn't sure about this east, west, north, south situation. And I want to clarify that because we're going to be looking at the Beis Hamikdash, the building of the Beis Hamikdash. We need to know the direction we're looking at. I want to first point out that when we count Sfira every night, after we count Sfira, we say, Harachman hu yachzel lanu avodas Beis Hamikdash l'mkoma b'mherev yameinu amen selah. So directly connected to the mitzvah of Sfiras HaOmer became this yearning for the rebuilding of the Beis Hamikdash. And we say this every night. And Yez Hashem, some point we will connect Sfiras HaOmer, Pesach, and Shavuos to the building of the Beis Hamikdash. But we say this every night. We yearn for the Beis Hamikdash to return when we count Sfiras HaOmer. Now, going back to diagram number 1, which was this diagram. Okay. This diagram, as we said yesterday, you have to turn your perspective. We're used to standing at the Kosel and thinking about the Beis Hamikdash, which is a wonderful thing. The Beis Hamikdash is behind the Kosel. But in order to really understand Masechta Middos and how the Beis Hamikdash was built and how all the rooms were situated, you have to learn how to think about looking at the Beis Hamikdash from the Har HaZeisim. The Har HaZeisim would be considered the east. The Kosel Maravi is the west. Therefore, today, when you walk to the Kosel, you stand at the Kosel, and to your right side are the digs and the southern wall that have 2 arches, which we call, for whether correct or incorrect, but certainly it seems that way, Sharei Hulda. There were 2 gates to enter the Har HaBayis on the southern wall. So when we stand at the Kosel Marabi, that's our mental perspective of the Kosel of the Beis Hamikdash. We're looking west to east, and the Sharei Hulda are the southern wall, which is on the right. The correct way to look at the Har HaBayis and the Beis Hamikdash is from the Har HaZeisim. So the Har HaZeisim would have, this would be the eastern gate, the gate that looks like it has a bridge to it, and it does. There was a bridge from the Har HaZeisim to the eastern gate. That's the eastern gate. And now you flip your perspective, because now to your right side is going to be the northern wall. It says it on your picture, Tzafon. And the left side is going to be east. So when you're looking east to west, the right is going to be north, the left is going to be south, and the west is going to be the west. Okay, now what we were learning yesterday was the first topic in Masechta Tamid, which is guarding the Beis Hamikdash, or the Har HaBayis. We spoke yesterday about Rab Gelbstein in the 1840s, who wrote this tremendous sefer, Mishkanos Lav Yaakov, and he felt that the mitzvah of Shmira guarding the Mokom HaMikdash applies even today when there was no Beis Hamikdash, and he was quite disappointed that he was not able to convince other Gedolim in his time, but he was prepared to actually set up a rotation of guarding the Mokom HaMikdash. So we're in the middle of learning about the rules of the Shmira. We haven't gotten to the places of the Shmira yet. We just learned the first words of the Mishnah, B'shlosha makomos hakohanim shomer v'beis hamikdash. There are 3 places where the Kohanim guard the Beis Hamikdash. Later in the Mishnah will talk about Leviim. Leviim guard the Beis Hamikdash in 21 places. Altogether, there were 24 guards or groups of guards, which we'll see today. But right now, we're focusing on the Kohanim. There were 3 places where the Kohanim guarded the Beis Hamikdash. And in Masechta Middos, we're now on page 2, page Beis. And we're in the Siyata D'Shmaya commentary. And we're in what is page Bays, and we are on the left side of the commentary. Mi heim hashomim, who are the guards? Uve'eza makom hayu shomim, and where did they actually guard the Beis Hamikdash? Mitzvah Shmiras Hamikdash, who hen al yedei hakohanim vehen al yedei halaviyim. The mitzvah to guard the Beis Hamikdash was a mitzvah on Kohanim and a mitzvah on Leviyim. And then the Siyata Dishmaya, the commentary, quotes the psukim from which we learned this out. I'm now skipping to the next paragraph, still on page Bays, the last line of the Siyata Dishmaya. Halaviyim shomim b'mokim b'fnei atzmam, v'hakohanim shomim b'mokim b'fnei atzmam. The Kohanim and Leviyim were in different places. 3 places for the Kohanim were for Kohanim. The 21 places for the Leviyim were for Leviyim. They're not the same places. I'm skipping to the next paragraph. Now we're on page Gimel. B'chaf dalet makom mosaviv hamikdash hayu shomim. Altogether, the Beis Hamikdash was guarded in 24 places. Okay, now I'm skipping to the next paragraph on page Gimel. However, af begimel hamakom shakohanim hayu shomim, even in the 3 places where the Kohanim guarded the Beis Hamikdash, hemidu sham gam leviyim sheyamdu v'yishmu b'samach lehem. They put Leviyim with the Kohanim to assist the Kohanim in guarding the Beis Hamikdash, not to be confused with the 21 places of the Leviyim. In other words, the Kohanim had 3 distinct places where they guarded the Beis Hamikdash. Because of a pasuk that is quoted in the Siyata Dishmaya, which comes from the Gemara in Talmud and other places, V'yilavu alecha v'yishasucha. The Torah says that Leviyim are to assist Kohanim. Therefore, if the Kohanim are doing a task, Leviyim should be there to assist them. So if the Kohanim are guarding the Beis Hamikdash in 3 places, that is the Kohen's job, those 3 places. They added Leviyim to those 3 places in order to fulfill the obligation in the Torah that the Leviyim shall assist the Kohanim. The places where the Kohanim guarded with the assistance of the Leviyim have nothing to do with the 21 separate places that the Leviyim guarded. So in other words, you have 3 places where the Kohanim guarded with assistance of the Leviyim. And then there was a separate 21 places where the Leviyim themselves and by themselves guarded the Beis Hamikdash. Again, we're on page Gimel, right-hand column. Af begimel hamakom shakohanim hayu shomim, hamidu sham gam leviyim sheyamdu v'yishmru b'samach lehem. Even in those places, the 3 places where the Kohanim guarded, Leviyim came to assist them, kidei sheyazru lekohanim. And we learned this out. He quotes the pasuk from V'yilavu olecha v'yisharsucha. I'm on the last line in the right column on page Gimel. Shalaviyim yu ozvim lekohanim be'inyan shmirasam es hamikdash. The Leviyim should assist the Kohanim in the Kohanim's job of guarding the Beis Hamikdash in these 3 places. Uchedei sheyedu haLeviyim hem rak tfolum lekohanim b'shmirasam, l'chein sidru sheba'oso gimel makomos tiya shmiras hakohanim b'derech kavod yosef b'shmiras haLeviyim. Therefore, in the 3 places where the Kohanim were the guards and the Leviyim were only assisting them, they wanted to make a distinction so that everybody that looked at this understood that these 3 places are Kohanim guard places, and the Leviyim are just assisting them. How did they make that distinction? Hilgach b'makom shehayu sham aliyos, sidru shar Kohanim yu shomim lamayla ba'aliyah v'alaviyim lamata, uv'mkom she'ein sham aliyah היו הכהנים שומעים בתוך החדר מבפנים, והלווים מבחוץ כמו שהסבר להלאה. In these three particular places, which were the responsibility of the Kohanim, and Levium were assisting them. So some of these three places, which we'll see in the Mishnah, were aliyot, like attics, like they were second floor rooms. The Kohen stood on the second floor in one of these three places, and the Levi stood on the first floor. This way people understood that this is a Kohen guard area because the Kohen's on top and the Levi is below. Other places amongst these three places, there was no first floor and second floor. There was only one floor on the ground. To demonstrate that the Kohen was guarding and the Levi was assisting, the Kohen would sit inside the room and the Levi would sit outside the room. So in these three particular places where the duty was of the Kohen to guard and the Levium was an assistant, the Kohen, if it was a first floor, second floor situation, the Kohen would sit on the second floor, the Levi would sit on the first floor. If it was one floor, the Kohen would sit inside, the Levi would sit outside. Now we're going back to the Mishnah. We're going to start learning about the places. Going back to page 1 of the Siyata Dishmaya Mishnah. B'shlosha makomos hakohanim shom b'beis Hamikdash. There are three places where the Kohanim guard the Beis Hamikdash, and there are Levium there assisting. The first place the Kohanim guarded, the guard place, was Beis Avtinas. Beis Avtinas was a place where Kohanim were taught how to make the Ketoris. And it's called Beis Avtinas because Avtinas was the person who, from the early days, he was a specialist in how to make Ketoris and how to teach Ketoris. It was not an easy thing, the Ketoris, especially the Ketoris for Yom Kippur, which was a very difficult thing to teach. And they named this room after this person. So it's called Beis Avtinas. So if you go to your diagram 1, if you go to your diagram 1, you're going to see on the south side, you're going to see Lishkas Beis Avtinas. And you can see that Lishkas Beis Avtinas is a second floor. It's sort of an attic. In this situation, where there's a second floor and a ground floor, the Kohen would be in the Lishka, in the Beis Avtinas on the second floor, and a Levi would be his assistant standing on the ground. So that's the first place that the Kohanim would guard the Beis Hamikdash. Beis Avtinas. The Kohen is in the Beis Avtinas itself on the second floor. The Levi is on the ground floor, and his job is to assist the Kohen. That's the first place. We go back to the Siyata Dishmaya on page Gimel. He explains, as we mentioned, what Beis Avtinas is. The Beis Avtinas, hu cheder b'tzad darom shel Azora. It's a room on the south side of the Azora. Sheshom machinim es haktoros b'chol hashana. That's where Ketoris is prepared the whole year. Ketoris was brought every day in the morning and every day in the afternoon, besides a special Ketoris that was prepared for Yom Kippur that went into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. V'gam shom hoyu melamdim es hakoyin hagodol kodem Yom HaKippurim es avodas chafinas haktorah shel Yom Kippur. We've turned to page Dalet, and that's the room where the Kohen Gadol would be taught before Yom Kippur how to be chofen, the ketores of Yom Kippur. That was a difficult job in itself, how to be chofen ketores. Sort of, the Kohen Gadol had to have a fire pan in his hand, he had to have ketores in his hand. On the other hand, it was a difficult job to teach, and this was taught in Beis Avtinas. V'gam hoyu mashbiim shom es haKohen Gadol be'erev Yom HaKippurim. On Erev Yom Kippur, because of the situation, specifically in the second Beis Hamikdash, where there were Tzedukim, Sadducees, who did not believe in the Torah Sheba'al Peh, they did not believe in the oral transmission. We learned about them, at least tangentially, this past week in Pirkei Avos. It says, Antignish Issocho said that a person should serve Hashem not for the purpose of getting reward. And he had two students, Tzadok and Baisus, and these two students improperly deduced from what he said that if the Rebbe said that we should serve Hashem not for the purpose of reward, it must be because there is no reward. And if there's no reward at all, they scoffed at Shmiras HaTorah altogether. But as the Rambam explains, there was no way that they can go out and create a crowd to support them by saying, forget the whole Torah. So they found a way to get a crowd around them by making an argument that was very palatable for people. You only have to observe the written Torah, but you don't have to observe the oral Torah, which makes things absolutely, quote unquote, ridiculous, because you can't observe the written Torah without the oral Torah. When the Torah says, Zocher es Yom HaShabbos l'kadsho, you should keep the Shabbos day holy, what do I do? And what don't I do? You don't know what to do. It's the Torah Sheba'al Peh that comes and tells us that Rabbonu Shalom told Moshe about 39 malachas. Without the Torah Sheba'al Peh, the Torah Sheba'al is virtually meaningless. And you should write this in a mezuzah on the door, on the entrance to your houses. The mezuzah, the doorpost. What should I write in the mezuzah? Torah doesn't say what parshas go in the mezuzah. If not, HaKadosh Baruch Hu telling Moshe, keep Torah Misina, Mesorah Yoshua, and the Mesorah that we have, we wouldn't know what a mezuzah is. We wouldn't know anything. We wouldn't know how to keep Shabbos. We wouldn't know how to v'hoylu totafos beinenecha. There should be a totafos between your eyes. What is a totafos? What goes in a totafos? Maybe this totafos should be right between my two eyeballs. Why is it on my forehead? We don't know anything without the Torah Sheba'al Peh. In the second Beis Hamikdash, as the Rambam explains, tzotzats, there was an explosion, so to speak, of tzedukim, and they argued with the Chachamim in many places. One of the places they argued with the Chachamim was the Maisa Haktores on Yom Kippur. There was a question of, does the Kohen Gadol go into the Kodesh Kadosh on Yom Kippur with his fire pan and his ketores in two separate hands? And then in the Kodesh Kadoshim, he puts the ketores on the fire pan and the smoke begins to rise. That's how it's supposed to be done. The Tzedukim said, no. You put the ketores on the fire pan before you get to the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and then you go into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. And there were other things that the Tzedukim did. We're now in the period of Sfiras HaOmer. The Tzedukim had a very interesting interpretation of Sfiras HaOmer. Very interesting interpretation. It was what today we would call liberal politics. The Tzedukim believed that Moshe Rabbeinu, the Gemara says, was an Oyev Yisrael. Moshe Rabbeinu loved the Jewish people, which he did. And he wanted to give, this is going to sound very funny, but this is what the Gemara tells us in Menachos. The Tzedukim said Moshe Rabbeinu loved Klal Yisrael, and he wanted to give them a 3-day weekend. Right? We know people love 3-day weekends when they work. So how did he give us a 3-day weekend? It says in the Torah for Sfiras HaOmer, Usvadim lochem mimocharas haShabbos. You start counting the day after Shabbos. Well, we don't count Sfira the day after Shabbos. When do we start counting Sfira? The day after the Seder. The Seder this year was on a Wednesday night. We started counting Sfira on Thursday night, the day after Pesach, the day after the first day of Pesach. But the Torah says, you shall count this the day after Shabbos. The Gemara tells us that this pasuk is referring to Pesach. The day after Shabbos in this pasuk means the day after Pesach, and the Gemara explains why. And that's the way Moshe Rabbeinu taught the Torah to Klal Yisrael. That Usvatim Lachem Imachas Shabbos means the day after Pesach. And so we start counting the day after Pesach. We count 49 days. And on the 50th day, it's Shavuos, which means Shavuos can come out on any number of days, depending upon when we start counting Sfira. That Tzdukim said, no. We don't believe in this oral stuff. Moshe Rabbeinu wrote in the Torah, you want to count from the day after Shabbos. And that means that the first Shabbos after Pesach, you start counting Sfira. Every year, you start counting Sfira on the same night. The day after Shabbos, which is the Shabbos after Pesach. So now what happens? We would have started counting Sfira according to Tzdukim this past, the Shabbos, the Saturday night after the Seder, which means every year, if the first night of Pesach, if the first day of Sfira is Saturday night, so do the math quickly. Saturday night is 1, 8, 15, 22, 29, 36, 43, 50. Every year Shavuos is Saturday night, Sunday. So you have a long weekend. Every year we have a Shabbos, which is Shabbos, and Shavuos on Sunday. Every year, Moshe Rabbeinu loved us and gave us a 2-day break. Of course, we know in those days Yom Tov was only 1 day. Only in Chutz La'aretz much later did Yom Tov become 2 days, but in those days it was unheard of to have 2 days. So Moshe Rabbeinu decided that there'll be one Yom Tov a year that will give us a 2-day break, and that will be Shabbos. And this was an argument between the Tzdukim and the Chachamim. So the Tzdukim caused all kinds of problems, and the Kohen Gadol on Erev Yom Kippur was taken to the Beis Avtinas. The Mishnah in Yuma tells us, and in the Beis Avtinas they made him swear that the whole avodah he would do on Yom Kippur would be al pi Torahs Moshe, to the exclusion of any shtuyot that were being promulgated by the Tzdukim. He had to make a shavua that he's going to follow the rules of the Torah exactly as he had been taught in preparation for Yom Kippur. So this was also done in the Beis Avtinas. V'nikra, we're on page Dalet, again in the Siyat Dishmaya, the right-hand column. V'nikra cheder zeh Beis Avtinas, v'pnei she'avtinas hayerosh l'mishpachas Avtinas shoyu b'kiyim b'maisak Torahs v'oyu mamunim oleh. It's called the room of Avtinas because Avtinas was the head of the family called Avtinas, the Avtinas family, and he was the one who was the specialist. He was the baki in how to make Ketores, how to teach Ketores, and so his name was sort of engraved on this room, Beis Avtinas. We're continuing now in the Siyata Dishmaya, page Dalet, right-hand column, last line. Uva Masechta Talmud Amina shecheder zeh hoya ba'aliyah. We learned in Masechta Talmud that the Beis Avtinas is like an attic. It's a second floor, which is what we see in diagram number 1. Lishkas Beis Avtinas. The Lishkas Beis Avtinas is an attic, second floor, which, as we said, means the Kohen is on the second floor and the Levi is on the first floor. V'hoya benuya al chomas ha'azora eitzel shar hamayim shushar hashlishi mishlosha she'orim shebedorim ha'chonim imayrav lemizrah. And it's right near the gate that we're going to deal with not today, but there was a gate called Shar Hamayim, which is right near here. You don't see it in this picture, But if you stay on page Dalit, in the Siyata Dishmaya, you have the Shar Hamayim, which is a gate into the Azora. That's a gate into the Beis Hamikdash. Remember, there are gates that lead into the Harabayas. Then you continue walking, and then there are gates that go into the Beis Hamikdash. This base of Tinas was on the wall of the Azor. It's on the wall of the Beis Hamikdash, not the Harabayas. It's on the wall of the Beis Hamikdash. And it's right near the Shar Hamayim, the water gate, which is right next to it, and it's one of the gates into the Beis Hamikdash. We're going to go back to the bottom now, to the Chemdas Yisrael, all the way to the bottom of page Dalit, and he writes as follows: Uva Sefer Mishkanos L'Avir Yaakov, in the Sefer Mishkanos L'Avir Yaakov, which is a sefer by Reb Gelbstein, which we spoke about yesterday. He's the Gadol who wrote this huge encyclopedia on Beis Hamikdash, and he wanted to reinstitute guarding the Beis Hamikdash. And that's the Mishkanos L'Avir Yaakov. And in the Mishkanos L'Avir Yaakov, he writes as follows: Ki skula shmiras hamikdash hu la'atzar hamagefa, l'cheinema mitzah shmiras mikdash b'torah v'pashas korach, acha v'hamegefa netzara. The place, the psukim which we didn't read, where we learn out that the Beis Hamikdash needs to be guarded, come from Parshas Korach. And those psukim are written after, we remember that after the Machlokes Korach, besides Korach and his Ada being swallowed up, there was also Nebuch HaMagefa. It was a plague. And Aaron took Ketores and sprinkled it throughout the area, and the Magefa went away. So the Mishkanos L'Avir Yaakov says, we see two things from here. First of all, we see that the parsha of guarding the Beis Hamikdash came right after the plague went away. So you see that guarding the Mikdash and learning about guarding the Mikdash, as we're doing, is an unbelievable protection against a Magefa Le'aleim. And the Rebbe Shalom, b'schus our learning, and b'schus the learning of all people, specifically those learning Middos and in Yonei Beis Hamikdash, the Rebbe Shalom should send the Shmira to all Yidden. He should send a Refuah Shalema to all Yidden. Send a Refuah Shalema to all the human beings in the world, the good dimension that need a Refuah Shalema. The Rebbe Shalom loves his creation. So we have a tremendous, besides building a Beis Hamikdash as we're talking. Remember, we're not architects. I emphasized that yesterday. We're not architects. Architects draw plans. We are not architects. We're the actual Shiputzniks. With our learning, we're actually building a Beis Hamikdash, and we saw that yesterday brought down in the Sforim, that the third Beis Hamikdash, according to some Shitas, will be sent down from Shamayim by the Rebbeinu Shalom, in which case, what is our participation in the building of the third Beis Hamikdash? Our participation is learning how to build the Beis Hamikdash, because that's what will bring the third Beis Hamikdash down. So we're not architects while learning Middos. We are the Shiputzniks. We are the construction people who are actually building the Beis Hamikdash. So the Mishkanos L'Avir Yaakov says two things. First of all, you see that we learn out the Shmira of the Beis Hamikdash from Parshas Korach right after Hamagefa Netzara, the plague stopped. So you see that the Shmira of the Beis Hamikdash and learning about the Shmira of the Beis Hamikdash is something that helps stop a Magefa. On top of that, you see that the way the Magefa stopped was Aaron sprinkled Ketores in the area. So Ketores stops a Magefa. And in the Beis Haftinas, which we just learned about, where they taught Kahanim how to make Ketores, that was specifically a place that was, quote unquote, Misugal, to protect Jews from a Magefa. So the Kohen stood in the second floor, the Beis Haftinas, and guarded, and there was a Levi below who assisted him in that place. So this is one of the three places where the Kohen guarded, and that was the base Haftinas. I want to go back to page Gimel in the Siyata Dishmaya. And on the bottom of the page, in the commentary of the Hamikdash Yisrael, the third paragraph, we have this question. We've been talking about guarding the base Hamikdash or the Mokum Hamikdash. We've been talking about right now the base Haftinas. That's the first of the three places where the Kohen guarded and a Levi assisted him. How many Kohanim guarded? And how many Leviim were there to assist? Was it one Kohen in the base Haftinas and one Levi below, or was it more? So on page Gimel, in the Hamikdash Yisrael, the third paragraph, he writes, V'da, and you should know, there's a machlokes in the Mefarshim, how many guards stood in each place. The simple shita is that when we say a guard, we mean one guard in each place. So we just learned about the base Haftinas. There was one guard upstairs in the room of Haftinas and one Levi assisting below. But there are some shitas that say that there were 10 guards in each place. A minyan. It's not clear whether it's 10 Kohanim and 10 Leviim, but that's what it would sound like. And the Siyata Dishmaya references us to a Rambam in Beis Abchira, where it's mashma the Rambam holds like that there were 10 Kohanim in each of their three designated places, and each Kohen gets an assistant. So therefore, in the first place, we learned about that the Kohen guarded the base Haftinas, the place where you learn about the Ketores. There would be 10 Kohanim in the room and 10 Leviim below. So that's the first of the three places that the Kohen guarded and a Levi assisted him. The second place on the top of page Dalet, Ubebase Hanitzutz. And in the base Hanitzutz, there was a room called the base Hanitzutz. And now if you're looking at diagram 1, okay, you can see now that the base Hanitzutz is opposite the base Haftinas. The base Haftinas, the Lishkas base Haftinas, is on the southern side of the Azara, and the base Hanitzutz is on the northern side of the Azara. And if you're looking at it in the Siyata Dishmaya, you can see the base Hanitzutz is in the corner of the northern wall of the base Hamikdash of the Azara. And that's the second place that the Kohanim guarded. And again, you're going to have the same issue and the same questions. A, where was the Kohen, where was the Levi? B, how many Kohanim and how many Leviim? So let's take a look at the Siyata Dishmaya on page Dalet in the left-hand column, and it's footnote Beis Hanitzutz. Huchede b'tzad sofen ha'azara. This is a room at the northern wall of the Azara. V'nikra Beis Hanitzutz, and it's called the room of the Nitzutz. A Nitzutz is a spark. It's the room of the spark. Mipnei sheba'osa lishka hayaboret tomid medura kitana shel eish she'im tich be'eish ha'maracha shel gabe ha'mizbeach yikhu eish mishom. I'm now on page Hay of the Siyata Dishmaya. It was a room in which they kept a small fire going at all times. So it's called the spark. And they used this fire if chas v'sholom, the fire on the Mizbeach extinguished, then they would take fire from this room and they would bring it to the Mizbeach. So it was called the spark room, because from that room, which had the fire, in case it was necessary, they would spark the fire on the Mizbeach. And in this room, the Kohen also guarded the base Hamikdash. V'chivan shehoya ba la'olam eish cotton kei nitzut shalesh l'kakanikwa shema beis nitzut. It had a fire for a spark, so it's called beis nitzut. And now on page Hey, the right-hand column, the Siyata Dishmaya continues. V'gam chedezeh hoya b'aliyah. The Beis Hanitzutz, which is on the northern wall, is like the Beis Avtinas, which is on the southern wall, in the sense that it was an attic or a second floor, which says to us what? Attic, second floor. Where's the Kohen? Upstairs in the attic. And where's the Levi? Downstairs assisting. How many Kohanim? How many Leviim? Maybe one upstairs Kohen, maybe one downstairs Levi, maybe 10 Kohanim upstairs, maybe 10 Leviim downstairs. But again, we now have two of the three places where the Kohanim guarded the Beis Hamikdash. Beis Avtinas on the southern wall, Beis Hanitzutz on the northern wall. Both of these places were attics. So therefore, the Kohen stood upstairs, which is a Mokum Kavod for the Kohen, and the Levi stood downstairs as an assistant to the Kohen. So we have two of the three places. And now back to the Mishnah. The Mishnah says on page Dalet of the Siyata Dishmaya, Ubebet HaMoked. The third place where Kohanim guarded the Beis HaMikdash is in the Beis HaMoked. If you're going to diagram 1, you're going to see the Beis HaMoked is near the Beit HaNitzutz on the northern wall. If you're looking in the Siyata Dishmaya picture, on page Dalet, you'll see Beis HaNitzutz corner northern wall, and then Beit HaMoked near it. Why was this place called the Beit HaMoked? Page Hey in the Siyata Dishmaya, right-hand column. Beit HaMoked. Uchedek Godel B'tzad Safain HaZorah. This is a huge room that is on the northern wall of the Azorah. And the Mishnah later in the Masechta is going to deal in depth with this Beis HaMoked. There were rooms inside this Beis HaMoked that served different purposes. It was quite a large room. V'nikra Beis HaMoked. Why was it called Beis HaMoked? HaMoked means like a fire. The last room was Nitzutz, a spark. This is Beis HaMoked. This is talking about a real huge fire. Mipnei shemiduris eish hayudokim botomit, k'dei sheyuchlal lehischamin shom hakohanim, shereim holchim yechef mal ritzba shaish shebemikdash. V'gam hoy levushim rak b'ketones, v'lham mishazayin yavur pratis hechen shom musham. Kohanim were walking around barefoot in the Beis HaMikdash because they couldn't be a chatzitza between their body and the floor of the Beis HaMikdash. The floor of the Beis HaMikdash was holy, and the Kohen had to be connected to the holy floor. He couldn't wear socks, he couldn't wear shoes, his feet had to touch the holy floor of the Beis HaMikdash. Now, if you ever walked on shayish, a good piece of shayish, it can get pretty cold, even in the summer. Shayish retains some of its cold, but in the winter, for sure, it's cold. And so what did these Kohanim do? Their feet are cold, and their bodies are getting cold. So one of the things in the Beis HaMoked was there was a huge fire in the Beis HaMoked, and they were able to go in there to warm up their bodies every so often. So that's why it's the Beis HaMoked, the room of the fire. But there were other rooms and there are other purposes to this room. For our understanding right now, there's a Beis HaMoked, and that's another place where the Kohen guarded. Now, if you take a look at the picture, you can see the Beis HaMoked is not an attic. It's just a room on the ground floor. So we go back to our rule. If a Kohen is guarding, then a Levi is assisting him. Where would the Kohen guard if it's a room, not an attic? The Kohen would be inside the room. The Levi would be outside the room. So now we know the three places that the Kohanim guard in the Beis HaMikdash. The Beis Avtinas, southern wall, which was an attic. That's where they learned how to make the Ketores. 1 or 10 Kohanim stood in the attic, and 1 or 10 Leviim stood on the first floor. Place 1. Place 2, the Beis Hanitzutz on the northern wall, corner of the northern wall. Again, an attic. 1 or 10 Kohanim in the Beis Hanitzutz, 1 or 10 Leviim on the first floor below the Beis Hanitzutz. The third place the Kohanim guarded the Beis Hamikdash, the Beis Hamoked, which was a room and didn't have an attic. And therefore the Kohen or 10 Kohanim stood inside, 1 or 10 Leviim stood outside. If you go and you stay on page Hey, in the left-hand column, he summarizes what we just said. Vida shebegimel makaymes elu hoyugam leviim oimdim besamel hakohanim kilasayv yulabo lech rishasucha. As we explained, wherever a Kohen guards, a Levi is supposed to be his assistant. Shalaviim yazru, the Leviim help, v'yutfolim lekohanim, but they're tuffle, they're secondary to the Kohanim. And here are the 3 places we learned about. The Beis Haftinas HaKohen Shomer Ba'aliyah Ba'alevi Lamata. In the Beis Haftinas, where they made the Ketores, 1 or 10 Kohanim were in the attic, and 1 or 10 Leviim were below on the first floor. Second place, the Beis Hanitzutz, where they had a spark in case the fire on the Mizbeach Chas v'Sholom extinguished. They took a spark and relit the Mizbeach. This again, the Beis Hanitzutz at the corner of the northern wall is an attic. HaKohen HaYeshoma Ba'aliyah Va'alevi Lamata. The Kohen or the 10 Kohanim would be in the attic above the Mokum Kovid, and the Levi, the assistant, would be below, or the 10 Leviim. Gimel, the third place for the Kohen to guard the Beis HaMikdash, the Beit HaMoked, in this huge room called the Beit HaMoked, where there was a fire for the Kohanim to warm themselves up. HaKohen HaYeshomer B'toch HaBeis HaMoked Milifnim. The Kohen would be standing, that's a bad word, the Kohen would be inside. We're going to deal with standing or sitting probably tomorrow. The Kohen will be inside because it's not an attic, it's a room. Levi eitz lasham yibachutz, and the 1 or 10 Leviim would be at the opening of the Beis Hamoked outside. Okay. So what did we learn today? We learned about the 3 places that the Kohanim guarded the Beis Hamikdash. Beis Haftinas on the southern wall, 1 or 10 Kohanim in the attic upstairs, 1 or 10 Leviim below. The second place the Kohanim guarded was the Beis Hanitzutz, the northern wall at the corner, from which a fire would be taken if the fire on the Mizbeach extinguished. Again, that's an attic or a second floor. The 1 or 10 Kohanim were above, the 1 or 10 Leviim were below. The third place the Kohanim guarded was in the Beit HaMoked, which was a big room that served many functions. One of the functions was to have a big fire in there so the Kohanim can warm themselves since they were barefoot in the Beis HaMikdash. This was a 1-floor room. Therefore, the Kohanim got the Mokum covered inside the room, and the Leviim, the assistants, outside. 1 or 10 Kohanim inside, 1 or 10 Leviim outside. And those are the 3 places in the Beis HaMikdash that the Kohanim were in charge of guarding, and the Leviim assisted them. Tomorrow we'll pick up with the 21 places where the Leviim guarded, and the 21 places that the Leviim guarded will bring us to the discussion of how many entrances there were to the Har HaBayis and how many entrances there were to the Beis HaMikdash. You have to go up to the Har HaBayis, enter the Har HaBayis, continue walking, and then go through another gate to get into the Beis HaMikdash itself. So tomorrow, Bli Neder, we're going to take a look at the entrance ways into the Har HaBayis, and then the entrance ways into the Beis HaMikdash themselves, and the Leviim would be guarding those entrance places. Let's take a look now at the DaAs Tevunos, where we ended yesterday. The DaAs Tevunos, written by the Ramchal, as a dialogue between a Seichel and a Neshama. The Neshama has many questions for a Seichel, And the neshama wants answers. And the neshama's answers are based upon the following questions. There are 13 ani mamins, and the neshama says, I believe in all the 13 ani mamins as a matter of faith, as a matter of Masorah. I believe my father, who believed his grandfather, who believed his great-grandfather, and so on, till we get to a Zayda who was learning with Moshe Rabbeinu, and he believed Moshe Rabbeinu. So we have Masorah going back to Moshe Rabbeinu about certain things that we believe in. The Rambam codified them, so to speak, into 13 ani mamins, which wasn't a simple task, and not everyone agrees with him. But the Rambams, the holy Rambams, Yud Gimel Middos, Yud Gimel Ikarim, and the Ramchal basically uses those Yud Gimel Ikarim, although there's some changes, but for our purposes, we're talking about the 13 ani mamins. So the neshama says to the Seichel, I absolutely believe be'emunah as an article of faith in the 13 ani mamins. But 9 of them I actually understand. They're rational to me. 4 do not make sense at all. I accept them as a principle of faith, but I don't understand how they work. The 4 that he says he doesn't understand are schar or hashgacha, that God is actually supervising and administering the world. The second one he doesn't understand is schar v'onesh. God rewards the good and punishes the evil. The third concept he doesn't understand is bias Mashiach, which obviously is a function of reward. And the fourth concept he doesn't understand is Tchias HaMesim, which is an ultimate reward. And since he doesn't see reward and punishment functioning as he would want them to function in this world, how can he believe in reward and punishment in a world he hasn't even seen yet? So he wants to understand these 4 principles of faith. He wants to understand them, and this is the sheet of the Ramchal, the sheet of the Shalach Kodesh, the sheet of the Chayvus Halvavos. If anybody has ever learned Chayvus Halvavos, there's the Shar HaYichud, and in the recent printings, maybe the last 20, 30 years, printings of the Chayvus Halvavos before the Shar HaYichud, there's about a 10-page introduction between different letters or different Maimorim that Gedolim wrote. Some of them said you should not learn the Shar HaYichud of the Chayvus Halvavos. You shouldn't learn about proving God is one or his uniqueness, because it's too complicated, it's too philosophical. People get the wrong ideas, and just learn the whole Sefer but skip the Shar HaYichud. Other Gedolim said, no, you have to learn Shar HaYichud, because it's not enough to accept this idea of God's existence and God's uniqueness and God's oneness as an article of faith. One must understand it, and therefore you should learn it. So this has been an ongoing machlokes. The Ramchal and many other Gedolim, as I mentioned, the Shalach, Chayvus Halvavos, others, want you to understand this. And the Ramchal quotes in his opening comment to the Chayvus Halvavos, in his opening comment to the DaAs Tevunos, he quotes the pasuk, "V'yadata hayayim v'hashevois elavavecha, ki Hashem hu Elokim b'shamayim ma'al v'loach mitachas eino." It can't be much clearer than that. In the pasuk where it's discussing Hashem b'shamayim ma'al v'loach mitachas eino, God is the God of heaven, the God of earth, and there's no other God besides him. The pasuk begins, it doesn't say you shall believe, it says v'yadatem hayom, you should know. Know means you have to open your brain, put on your thinking cap, and know it. How would you know that God is the God of heaven and the God of earth, and there's no other God but him? You have to know it. To know it, you need to study the principles that will lead you to understand it, and then and then it'll properly sink into your heart. But first, there has to be a yediyah. And based on that, the Ramchal wrote the DaAs Tevunos, and he's willing to go into these concepts. And this is a book of trying to understand how the Ribbono Shel Olam runs the world. And so the Seichel says to Neshama, what troubles you so much about Hashgacha, Schar v'Onesh, Bias Mashiach, and Tchias HaMesim? and using a play on words, he quotes a pasuk from Iyov. Hamasibas hagdoilas hamashapas ba'olam. Look, if you look outside, the world is topsy-turvy. The world is not running according to the system that we would want it to run according to which we've been taught. There is a God watching the world, and he punishes the evil, and he rewards the righteous. And therefore, because he rewards the righteous in this world, I can believe that at some point in time, the ultimate reward, Mashiach, and the ultimate reward of Tchias HaMesim are going to happen. But if in this world in which I live, and I look out my window, and I don't see Hashgacha, and I don't see Schar V'Onesh, how in the world am I supposed to believe that in some distant future world that I've never seen, that there's going to be Schar and Onesh? And that's a topsy-turvy world. And as I mentioned yesterday, it's so important when we learn DaAs Tevunos to understand that the DaAs Tevunos is trying to teach us that there is no chaos in the world. An imam and b'emunah shalema, that there's no chaos in the world, that God's running the world in a perfect system. People get scared, people get nervous when they think they're in a chaotic situation. They don't know what's going to happen to them. They don't know what to expect. We spoke about this yesterday. And the DaAs Tevunos is going to explain to you not everything you can expect in the world, not everything you can expect in your life, but he's going to show you that everything is administered through a system that was set into place at the time the world was created, and it runs on this perfect system with a goal. It's not stam a hefkevel. Mentioned yesterday, the world looks like the teacher walked out of the classroom, the teacher walks out of the classroom, everybody gets out of their chair, runs around, fights start, spitballs start, everybody does whatever they want. Then suddenly the door creaks open and everybody's back in their seats with their hands folded nicely on the desk because the teacher's coming back in the room. And we, chas v'shalom, sometimes get the sense that, quote unquote, to quote the Apikursus that's mentioned in the Nevi'im, Ozav Elikim es ha'aretz, God left this world. He got fed up with the world. He just left and went on to create something else. And he left man and the whole creation up to their own desires and urges. Do whatever you want. I'm not involved in this anymore. And that's chas v'shalom the way a person can look at the world. The chaos is because God's no longer a mashgiach. The teacher left the room and he closed the door and he's never coming back. Do whatever you want in the classroom. Chas v'shalom, we should think that way. And DaAs Tevunos is written to teach us that that's not what's happening in the world, that there's an incredible systematic approach to the whole world. So we're on page base of the DaAs Tevunos, and the Neshama in paragraph Zayin said, I'd like to understand where all these world events are leading to. Where are we headed here? I saw, I've seen in different forums the same kasha. The Mishnah at the end of Sota gives us different signs of Mashiach coming. And they're not good signs, meaning not good signs in the sense that the Mishnah says, for example, the door when Mashiach comes will be big machutzafim. There'll be big machutzafim. The Mishnah says that children will stand up against their parents. Pnei hador kipnei hakelev. All these indications of Mashiach coming are not good things. If these are the things that are supposed to happen before Mashiach comes, one would think that before Mashiach comes, we would be in a state of tshuva. We would have become so holy that Mashiach is ready to come. Yet what has happened, is the screen okay, or something happened to the screen?
Somebody is sharing their screen. I'm trying to stop it, Rebbe.
Okay, so we would think that Mashiach comes right before there's a massive tshuva and people are doing wonderful things and children are respecting their parents and young people are respecting their elders, and there's a tremendous amount of derech in the world. We got rid of chutzpah. Instead, when that happens, we're ready for Mashiach. Instead, the Mishnah tells us just the opposite. Children will stand up against their parents. The young will stand up against the old. There'll be tremendous chutzpah in the world. All kinds of things that we would imagine would distance us from Mashiach. Instead, the Mishnah says these are signs of Mashiach. We won't go into why those are signs of Mashiach now, but this is the idea that the Neshama is talking about to his Seichel. The world is topsy-turvy. How can this world of topsy-turvy be leading to anything good? What is the end game here, so to speak? Where am I headed to? And this is the question that the Neshama is asking the Seichel in the 1700s. You can imagine what the question would be in 2020. But this is the question in the 1700s. Where are we headed to with all the evil in the world? It doesn't look like Chas v'Shalom there's Hashgacha. It doesn't look like there's Schar v'Onesh. Where are we headed here to? And if you're going to tell me we're headed to a good place, which we are, can you explain to me, please, how these strange, evil things are part and parcel of a system that's bringing me to Mashiach? So on page base of the DaAs Tevunos Siman Ches, Amar HaSeichel, the Seichel said, Avu yesh bekan dvorim koshem v'amukim ma'oid. You need to understand that there are very difficult and deep concepts involved in answering your question. Kago, as a premier example of a concept that comes up to deal with your question, the Seichel says Neshama, Tzadik v'raloi, Rasha v'toivloi. The Gemara says that there's a Tzadik v'toivloi, Tzadik v'raloi, Rasha v'toivloi, Rasha v'raloi. The Gemara Bracha says that there are tzaddikim that have wonderful lives. There are tzaddikim that have awful loyalein lives. There are Rishoyim that have wonderful lives. There are Rishoyim that have terrible lives. And Moshe Rabbeinu, the Gemara says in Brachas, asked the Rabbeinu Shalom, explain this to me, God. Explain to me how you run the world. There's a tzaddik who's getting a wonderful schar, a tzaddik that's getting yisurim, a Rasha that's getting schar, and a Rasha that's getting yisurim. Explain to me, God, how you're running this world. According to one teretz in the Gemara, which Rav Friedlander quotes in his footnote at the bottom, number 2, Reb Meir says that the Rebbeinu Shalom refused to answer Moshe Rabbeinu's kasha. He wouldn't answer him. He said, you can't understand as a human being the answer to this particular question. Therefore, if we're going to be talking about how God runs the world, part of running the world has this aspect of tzaddik v'toivloi, tzaddik v'raloi, Rasha v'toivloi, Rasha v'raloi. That's part of the way God runs the world. So the Seichel says in the Shema, when you ask me how God runs the world and where we're headed to, you need to understand that there are concepts here that are very, very complicated and that Moshe Rabbeinu asked about, and he couldn't get an answer to them either. And again, back to Siman Ches on page beige. Even Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't understand them. Tess. Amra HaNeshama, so the Neshama said, HaPratim shlo ucha lahavin. The Neshama says to the Seichel, look, I'm not putting you under pressure. We're having a friendly dialogue. My Neshama to my Seichel, no pressure. I don't want to understand every little detail of how God runs the world, because I understand that's beyond me and it's beyond you. I'll forget about the real details. I'd like to have a straight, clear understanding of some of the general rules. I'd like to know straight, general principles that can lead me in the path to, again, a general understanding of how God runs the world. All the details I know I can't understand. And the details that can't be understood, I will accept the fact that I can't understand. There's a very important footnote here from Rav Friedlander at the bottom of page base. It's footnote number 3. And you have a copy of my page, which is underlined. Avo pishi efshel lohovenes proto. Lomet tzadik zeraloi, v'tzadik zer tovlo, b'mikra sheshneim tzadikim gemura. The seichel is telling the neshama, listen, one of the ways God runs the world is tzadik v'tovlo, tzadik v'raloi, rasha v'tovlo, rasha v'raloi. I can explain to you the general concept, but I can't tell you the specifics. What does that mean, what Friedlander says? Friedlander says it means the following. I will explain to you, the Seichel says to Neshama, why God has a tool in his box by which he administers the world, that for some tzaddikim he does good, and for some tzaddikim he brings Yisurim, for some Rishoyim he brings good, and for some Rishoyim he brings Yisurim. I'm going to explain to you generally why that's a necessary tool in God's box to run the world. That's the general principle that I can explain to you. There has to be in the system the possibility that a tzaddik will suffer and that a rasha will actually succeed. There has to be that possibility to administer the world. But if you're going to ask me details, and what are the details? You're going to say, I have a question for you. The Ramchal, great tzaddik Yesod Olam, unbelievable tzaddik Yesod Olam. Another time we'll talk about the Ramchal. He died when he was 39. And he died in a plague in Akko. And they took his body to be buried to Tveria right next to Rabbi Akiva. He died in a plague at 39. Why did the Ramchal die in a plague when he was 39? And Moshe Rabbeinu died when he was 120. Why did this tzaddik die, Le'aleinu, of a certain disease at a young age? And this tzaddik had a healthy life. He lived till 96. I want specific answers about specific tzaddikim. Why did this evil person become wealthy and successful till the day he died? And this evil person lived a miserable life and eventually died a miserable death. I want specific answers now. I want to know why this particular tzaddik had tovloi and this particular tzaddik had raloi. I want to know why this particular rasha was tovloi and this particular tzaddik, this particular rasha was raloi. That's the place where the Seichel says to Neshama, I can't go because Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't get there either. That's Bahadi Kafsa de Rachmana Lamalach. That's the secrets inside God's chamber, who he picks to do certain things in the world. The general tool, why does God need certain tzaddikim to suffer and certain rishoyim to succeed? I can talk about that in generalities, why this is a necessary aspect of the system by which God administered the world. But if you're going to ask me, why is this tzaddik picked to be the successful tzaddik and this tzaddik picked to be the suffering tzaddik, we're not going to go there because that's private matters that only God takes up. In the Ramchal's Mesilas Yesharim, he deals with this in a very, very general way. And he says that the Ribono Shel Olam picks neshamas to do different jobs. Soldiers in the army, you have the general. The general will pick the best soldiers to do the most difficult tasks. He doesn't pick a lo yitzlach to go behind enemy lines and come back with intelligence about the other side. You don't pick the lo yitzlach to do that. The lo yitzlach you put in the kitchen to peel potatoes to make supper for all the other soldiers. A soldier that's a good soldier, a courageous soldier, a proven soldier, a soldier that has intestinal fortitude. You say, listen, Ruvain, we have this unbelievable job. It's very dangerous, and I need you to do this and this. And this courageous soldier says, yes, sir, I'm ready to do it because that's who I am. Mesilas Yesharim says that the Ribono Shel Olam split up the tasks of Tikkun Ha'olam between neshamas. The neshamas, whether they're given that way, born that way, developed, let's not get into Bechira now. There are neshamas in the world that are these type of courageous intestinal fortitude soldiers that God can send into the world with the unbelievable nisyonos, and they'll still leave the world as tzaddikim. And there are those people who are tzaddikim that if you push a little too hard, you're going to ruin them. And therefore, the Rebbeinu Shalom has to make their path a little softer, a little soft landing for them. And so generally, that's a place we can't go, because this deals with that inner chamber of neshamas, where God's giving out jobs to different neshamas. So this neshama of the tzaddik is going to be toivloi. This neshama of the tzaddik will be loyalenu raloi. This neshama of the rasha will be toivloi. This neshama of the rasha will be raloi. That occurs in the inner sanctum of God's neshama chamber. He decides what jobs are going to go to particular neshamas. We don't go there. However, the general concept of why does God need such a rule or such a concept where tzaddikim suffer and rishoyim are successful, why do you need that as part of the system altogether, just as a general proposition? That the Ramchal says we can deal with in the DaAs Tevunos, and that will be dealt with in the DaAs Tevunos. Klal Yisrael should have a happy and a healthy day. The world should have a happy, a healthy, safe, secure day for Allah good dimension. Emir Hashem will continue building the Beis Hamikdash tomorrow. We're not architects again, we're construction people. We're actually building, and the more we build, the closer it's going to come down from Shemayim. And we're DaAs Tevunos people, we're beginning to understand, trying to learn how God administers a world in a perfect, perfect system. Everybody have a wonderful day, Zai Gesund. Thank you for joining, and thank you to Shmuel for arranging this.